Good morning and welcome back to Spurs Latest. I am your host, Trip Graham. So happy to have you here today. We got so much to talk about going on around the NBA. Obviously, this is the off week for the All-Star season, but there's a lot of news going around the NBA, the best reality show on television, which is the National Basketball Association. All right, let's get into it. So first, let's talk about it. So are we seeing Kevin Durant have another burner situation? If you're new here in the NBA, this is nothing that we haven't been through before. That Kevin Durant has had burners on the back end of his NBA career on Twitter, that he does a little internet sleuthing by himself. Now, growing up with Kevin Durant, he's always been an internet troll. That's been his, he doesn't care about anything but basketball. And, it's refreshing. Of, the negative sports stories that are usually put out into the world of, if it's either violence or, off the court drama or, obviously gambling that has been a big thing this year. It's nice and refreshing to have a problem in the NBA that goes back to basketball. Kevin Durant is out here trashing teammates and former teammates using a Twitter. Now, it's pretty harmless. Absolutely. Could it hurt the morale of the Rockets? I hope so for our Spurs. The thing is, I think these problems are harmless. And honestly, Kevin Durant can just have plausible deniability about this whole thing and just say it wasn't him. Most likely, it was him. He was talking crap about a lot of his teammates, a lot of his ex-teammates, including Draymond Green and Steph Curry. And it could be very much real, but we don't know. It's a scenario where at least it's not causing any harm. There's nothing that can be harmful of this. And some people are overreacting on Twitter that this is the end of Kevin Durant. Absolutely not. Kevin Durant is here for basketball. There's no off-the-court drama that he cares about. It's purely basketball. And if teammates and him might collide over that, I don't think it impacts the performance of the team. It's always been about basketball. And always will be about basketball for Kevin Durant. He doesn't let anything get into his mind. He doesn't let anything get into his teammates' mind. But it was so funny him walking around All-Star Weekend with his phone just tied to his hip. Obviously, he was checking his phone constantly because he knew the burner blew up and, he was trying to do some damage control. But absolutely, I think it'll be some plausible deniability. I think he's going to just make another burner. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Kevin Durant had a burner? Or do you think that it was like this getting all overblown and someone is... I think someone could have been playing the long haul. If it wasn't Kevin Durant, someone playing the long haul, obviously. It was photos on that burner that Kevin Durant used for me a few years back. And clearly that, they might have taken him from his page and put him on there. But my guess, it was Kevin Durant, and it was not someone that was playing a long con game. So we'll see how this plays out. I don't think really anything will come from it. I think Kevin Durant will get right back on Twitter, roasting, fans of other teams and, getting back to Kevin Durant. And after the All-Star break when they're playing basketball, none of this will matter. Yeah. I mean, it's really funny how these things turn out. And, if it is true, I still say nothing's going to happen because it's Kevin Durant playing basketball. Who's going to call out Kevin Durant on his team? No one. He's the old head of his team. No one's calling out Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant is guilty of loving basketball too much and, maybe he's a little too passionate on the message boards online, so be it. He's not causing any problems and no off-the-court issues. Yeah. All right. Well, what else do you want to talk about? So another thing coming back, other than, in the NBA, is the Big Three basketball, which is awesome. Love Big Three basketball. And it really was making me think of, who would be the top Big Threes in the NBA right now if they, if you took 3 players from each team, who do you think would win the NBA Finals? If you played only 3 players from each 3 teams. So, this got me thinking about our Spurs. So our top 3 would obviously be Wemby as our first pick. Number 2 would be Fox. And number 3, we can go, multiple different directions. I think it's Castle, obviously. But obviously, I wouldn't be mad if you went, excuse me, maybe a Dylan Harper or, Keldon Johnson just for the longevity and, the teammate. But I do think it would be Castle, Wemby, and Fox, and we would have probably the best scenarios of winning the NBA Finals other than, who they've already set up. So other big three in the league, I just wanted to look around. So obviously in Detroit, probably you would go Cade Cunningham, Jalen Durant. Jalen Durant, excuse me. So Jalen Durant, Cade Cunningham, Duncan Robinson, maybe. That third spot's open for them, but I think that putting a shooter for them, having other two than the shooter, that would be really good. Then for New York, you would go, let me see, other in the East, you would go Jaylen Brown. Let's just go everyone's healthy. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White. New York, you would go Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges. Cleveland, interesting one in Cleveland now. You go Donovan Mitchell. Then you would go James Harden and then Mobley. So those would be your three there. Let's go do some West teams. For the OKC Thunder, you go SGA, Chet, and J-Dub. Absolutely. Yeah, you would go J-Dub. And then, like I said, for our Spurs, we go Fox, Castle, Wemby. Denver, it would be Jokic, Murray. And then, that third spot's pretty wide open for them. LA, Lakers, you would go probably, you would definitely go Luka, obviously. Austin Reeves and LeBron. Yeah, Austin Reeves I would have to go Austin Reeves. Yeah, so I just wanted to do that matchup to see who would you guys want as a big three team. So obviously there are some really bad out teams like that, or New Orleans and Sacramento that couldn't put big three together if they tried. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who would win in a big three tournament in the NBA? It would really hard just on based on performances alone. It would be really hard to beat the Thunder with those big three of J-Dub, SGA, and Chet. But, obviously the Boston Celtics have an amazing big three over there. Cleveland has amazing big three. So they got some big threes in the East that I would be worried about, definitely. But obviously in the West, it's us and OKC for the big three. And then I would put probably the Lakers at 3 with that Austin Reeves, Luka, LeBron combo right there. Just based on, longevity, performing together, and, Luka being Luka and Austin Reeves averaging like 25 points this season without even, it looks like he doesn't even break a sweat out there shooting threes out there. So really love watching Austin Reeves play a lot. All right. Well, other things going on in the NBA. I did want to do just like a quick NBA standings check-in. Let's talk about it. Yeah. So obviously we are at All-Star break, and there is going to be a lot of movement in the East and the West coming out of this All-Star break. Things are going to get chippy. A lot of teams are going to be falling off in the tanking. We have a huge conversation, and Adam Silver has to make decisions about tanking if these teams are really going to go as far tanking as we think they are. Sacramento is a dumpster fire. Washington is obviously without Anthony Davis and Trae Young, who they just traded for. Not going to be with them this season. So they have all the reason to tank. I hate the tanking. I hate it. But it's part of NBA. All right, so let's talk about standings. Let's check in on the standings. So first, let's talk about the West. Obviously, in the West, we have this the Thunder in the first seed. Thunder are 3 games above us at San Antonio. We are 38-16 going into the second half of the season, with Denver 3.5 games below that, and the Rockets 4.5 games below us as well. So things are kind of getting. It's OKC, us by 3, and then another 3 to those next 4 teams for the 3 to the 6 seed. Now, how do you guys think it's going to play out as we enter the second half of the season? I definitely see that us and the Thunder are going to separate ourselves. Now, the one thing that I really look for the Thunder is, are they going to be healthy without Shea? Are they going to keep performing without Shea? Because then I see us getting up to that number one spot if we can. And some of the other things, just questions that I have, is obviously the Clippers threw in the towel for the season, and I hate that, but they did. They're 26 and 28 on that 10th seed in that play-in tournament. It looks like to be dropping out. But if they drop out, who's going to take it? Because it's in the 7th seed to the 10th seed is separated by only 3 games, 26 and 28. And then Memphis is a really far drop-off at that 11th seed, where they're only 20 and 33. The Clippers still could make the play-in, and I don't see much movement coming out of the West of any of the top 10 teams moving out of those top 10s. Definitely see some movement between the 6th, 7th, and 8th seed, but I think the top 10 seeds are going to stay consistent as we go through the second half of the season. I see, the lock-ins are OKC, us, Denver, Houston, Lakers, and Minnesota. We're all locks, absolutely, to make the playoffs. Now, actually, I will say Minnesota's not that locked. They're really close with Phoenix. Only 2 games differential to make them up. I still think that Timberwolves will power up higher ceiling than Phoenix this season. So let's see how that plays out. But then out of the East, so Detroit is at the top of the pinnacle, killing it in the East at 40 and 13, with the Boston Celtics at 35 and 19 right behind them. New York 35 and 20, so only a half game behind the Celtics. And then Cleveland 34 and 21, only another 1.5 games behind the Celtics for that 2 seed. It's going to be very interesting as the East plays out. Now, I will say in the East, it's a lot closer race for those last seeds to get into the play-in tournament than the West. So Chicago and Milwaukee are 24 and 31 and 23 and 30. They are only a game and a half out of that 10 seed for that last spot in the playoffs, where then it's a complete drop-off for the East of those last 3 teams have no shot for anymore. Brooklyn, Indiana, and Washington each only have 15, and then 14 wins for Washington. Really, really tough season for all of those. Milwaukee, I don't know really where they go from here. If they're committed to Giannis and keeping him as a star player on their team, how are they going to try to approach the second half of the season? Squeeze in at that 10th seed, maybe. But they're going to have to take it from Atlanta or Charlotte, and I really think that that's going to be very difficult for them if they do not have Giannis. All right. Well, let's just talk about some NBA awards, because obviously a lot of people are talking about awards after the All-Star game, seeing some of the top players out there. Let's talk about it. So, who is your mid-season MVP? For me, I still got to go SGA. SGA is clearly the top if he can stay healthy. It's his to lose at this point. But, obviously Jokic is a contender. Jokic is also another one that is right on the cusp of losing the ability to win NBA awards based on his longevity of how many games he's played this season. And then number 3 is, if the other 2 just are not eligible, I think it's going to be Cade Cunningham. He's absolutely proven it this season, being the top seed in the East and really carrying those Detroit Pistons. So who do you see as your wanting to be your MVP, or who is your team MVP? Obviously for our Spurs, it's Wemby. Fox is definitely that number 2 catalyst for us, but number 1 is absolutely Wemby. So who do you think is going to win MVP? Obviously, there's other discussions to be had, like Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is destroying the league right now. He's averaging almost 30 points for the Boston Celtics while Jason Tatum is out, and really powering that team along. Him and Derek White are just phenomenal for over there for the Boston Celtics, really keeping them alive without Tatum. And Tatum has been teasing about coming back this season, so let's see how that plays out. Don't know if he's going to actually come back, but I have seen a lot of rumors that NBC Sports has been working with Tatum and his team about a possible, small form documentary that is coming out on a weekly basis. So we'll see if those start coming out. We've had our first teaser this last week with the NBC teasing Jason Tatum coming back this season. Is that going to be a real thing? Are they going to try to pull the trigger to, run at the East and try to win an NBA championship? Do they think that they have what it takes with that Vucevic trade for the Boston Celtics to kick them into high gear and bring Tatum on board to, put that cherry on top to make a finals run? So we'll see. I would love for the Spurs to play the Boston Celtics in the final. I would feel like a very nostalgic matchup. All right, well, that's everything I have here. Again, I'm Trip Graham. So happy to have you here today, and I will catch you in the next one.